Our next guest says, in the context of the surfacing anomalies, there is a leadership vacuum at the top. With us now for more is Assistant Professor JC Punongbayan of the School of Economics at the University of Philippines, Diliman. He is about to launch his podcast, Inside Gov. Good to have you back, JC. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Kathy, for having me.
So, what did you make of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing yesterday?
Well, Kathy, there's a very glaring conflict of interest that hounds all of these investigations. Because remember that the people involved in the flood control anomalies would be the lawmakers themselves, well, some of them, and then, of course, the DPWH, the district engineers, as well as the private contractors, who some of them who attended yesterday's hearings. So ideally, Congress itself should not be investigating itself. And to a certain extent, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon understands this. However, I think there should be a great demand for a very independent body that will investigate all this, because at the end of the day, the investigations might end up being just performative, and the people who are involved, including some lawmakers, may not be held to account, and therefore all of this would be a waste.
But the president did say that he will create that independent commission to investigate further. What do you make of that move?
Well, we should remember that the president himself has been complicit, because at the end of the day, the entire budget of the government gets approved by the president around December of every year. And at every step of the process, from the proposal of the budget, for example, there are already opportunities to insert the port, including the proposed budget for next year, in which the Department of Budget and Management, for example, submitted the National Expenditure Program that still contains about 270 billion pesos in flood control projects alone, when in fact, at that level, at the cabinet level, there should be some mechanism to already remove or excise some of the needless or potentially very risky port projects. So the executive and the legislature should be held to account in all of this.
Well, as these inquiries go and everybody being held into account, the House is already deliberating on the 2026 budget. And I wanted to pull up these figures for you. Budget departments carved out nearly 275 billion pesos to tackle the country's flood program. And in 2025, that budget submitted was worth 257 billion. And the House this year is going to be ditching that small committee to avoid the possible discretionary insertions. So what difference do you think that would make?
Well, again, if you look at the National Expenditure Program, in fact, the port budget is already put in place in the National Expenditure Program itself, even as early as now. And the problem is that as the budget bill goes through Congress, the risk is that this will further balloon, just like what we saw last year when there was a top-up of about 250 billion, if I'm not mistaken, in the DPWH budget alone. And this was because of the small committee that now they say has been removed. But that only points to the necessity of really monitoring how the budget evolves in the coming weeks and months. And this brings us to the need, for example, for more budget watchdogs to be involved in the process. Because we're talking about hundreds of billions of pesos that are unilaterally included in not very, or should I say, not at all transparent processes within the budget system. So we should be extra wary.
Positive feedback yet from the civil society organizations? Because I spoke with Social Watch Philippines' Jack Reyes Cantos last week, and she did say that the legislators are treating CSOs as mere observers rather than resource persons or speakers.
Yes, this is very troubling, because this kind of suggests that, again, on the part of some of the lawmakers who are pushing for more budget transparency, this might again end up being performative. I saw some of the initial discussions between CSOs as well as lawmakers, members of the Appropriations Committee, for example. But there are reports, many reports that say that the involvement is kind of tokenistic, actually, in the sense that they are allowed to say their piece, but in terms of calling out some of the dubious insertions, for example, or being involved in the deliberations themselves, in the hearings in the coming weeks and months, the participation of CSOs will continue to be very limited. Again, on the one hand, it's a step in the right direction, but I don't believe that they're doing nearly enough to involve CSOs.
As the inconsistencies, anomalies, and the transparency issues percolate, protests over rising costs of living in Indonesia proving the most serious test case yet for the leadership in Jakarta. And it's also raising questions as to if Pinoys were just so angry at the alleged corrupt practices, then why aren't Pinoys taking it to the streets?
Yes, I teach martial economics at UP this semester, and this is all very reminiscent of what had happened immediately after the EDSA People Power Revolution, where people stormed Malacanang and then they discovered all of the riches and treasures of the Marcos family, who were just ousted and booted out and went into exile in Hawaii. They discovered, for example, the huge shoe collection of Imelda, the vases of perfumes, and all of the other luxuries. So this points to the important fact that social unrest will really come to a head, or it will really be the outcome that we'll see if corruption reaches a certain level, and more importantly, if people realize that such massive corruption exists. So I think we're coming to a crucial moment in modern Philippine history, where yet again, Filipinos are coming to realize that corruption still persists, even as the pork budget allocations were supposedly banned back in 2013. But I have the opinion that actually that decision of the Supreme Court in 2013 had unintended consequences and led us to the situation right now. Because at least before, there were specific allocations for every lawmaker, so that you can very well monitor if they exceeded or not. But now the sky's the limit. So it's an unintended consequence of that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insights and good luck on the podcast. JC Punongbayan of UP Diliman.